He's 4, and he's so emotionally tapped in. He's beautiful. And he's like, Daddy, is that for your sugars? And he can't pass me insulin. Sometimes I lie to him, because if there's like a cake or something on the side, he's like, oh, Dad, can I get a bit of cake? I'm like, like, is that for your blood sugars? I'm like, yes. People go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life. You know, yeah. I get that quite a lot. Oh my gosh, you're doing this on TV. My daughter, she needs to know this. It'll change your life. And I'm like, yeah, you can do anything. It's not going to stop you. And then there's literally 4 people in the crew that got it or whatever. And they're going, yeah, you could do props, you can design. It doesn't stop you doing anything. No. But people have that thing in their head that it might do. Must have been 14 at the time. And he was like, you know, how old are you? 14. That voice hadn't fully broken yet. He goes, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, oh, football. And he went.
Hi everyone, welcome to TypeCast Life Between the Lines, a diabetes podcast that goes beyond the target glucose. I'm your host, Natalie Balmain, winner of Channel 4's Make Me Prime Minister, Omnipod Ambassador, and General Do-Gooder of Diabetes. Juggling the ups and downs of diabetes can be challenging, so I'm here to connect you to some real people with real stories who all have one thing in common: type 1 diabetes. We'll be talking to some amazing guests over the course of this series, sharing laughs, tears, insights, and inspirational stories. So whether you're a seasoned pro or newly diagnosed, I hope you enjoy the podcast. If you do, you can make sure to watch, download, listen, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast app. I hope you enjoy the show. TypeCast, the podcast, features real stories from real people living with diabetes. But of course, none of this should be taken as medical advice. Always seek advice from your diabetes specialist team before making any changes. Hi, Diabesties, and welcome to TypeCast, Life Between the Lines, the podcast that goes beyond your target glucose. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce today's guest to you because not only is he one of the most recognisable faces on British television, but he even managed to get his diagnosis written into his own storyline. You might know him as Joel Dexter, but to us today, he is the fabulous Rory Douglas Speed. Hi, Rory.
Oh, can you intro me everywhere I go, please?
I'll just walk around in front of you with a little megaphone.
Love that.
It seems like the old town crier. Hear ye, yeah, Rory Douglas Speed.
Impressive.
Thank you so much for joining us today, because I know you have an incredibly hectic schedule, and that's definitely one of the things we'll touch on. So before we get into our chat, I just want to remind you of how we first met. Do you remember?
I think so.
I think it was probably around 2017, because I'd not long launched Type 1 clothing and you'd not long started on Hollyoaks.
Yeah, I'd only been on it maybe, a few months actually. I think it was on screen by that point, definitely. So probably 6 months into actually starting now.
Yeah, and I remember watching an episode and I was like, oh, new person. Let's see who this is. So I found your Twitter. And the first thing I saw was a post you'd posted with a photo. Now, I don't know what you were actually meant to be showing us, but the only thing I saw in the background was a very recognisable insulin pen.
Yeah.
And I remember DMing you and saying, are you type 1? And you were like, nice detective work.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was there on purpose to reel people in.
Yeah, that's it. No, but you know what I really appreciated actually was that you just wrote back and was like, yeah, like it was your commitment to the community was so obvious even from then that you were just like, yeah.
Oh, did you think? That's funny, because I feel like for years, actually, I didn't really address it. The only thing I would really address is even in my costume clothes, I'd have my insulin pen and sometimes it would pop out and people would message being like, oh, is that an insulin pen in your pocket? But in terms of actually speaking about it was not something I actively sort of went ahead and addressed.
Yeah.
But if somebody come and approached me, I would speak about it.
Yeah, well, I thought you were very open and very honest, and it was really nice to have that conversation with you.
Good, yeah.
So, and that was 7 years ago,
Mad,
and we're actually just meeting for the first time today.
Crazy.
And you've done a lot in those 7 years. You got engaged to your beautiful fiancé,
I
Nadine.
know, and
Shout out, hi Nadine.
2 babies.
2 babies.
I'm a bit older now.
Yeah, so you've done a lot in those 7 years. That's
Yeah.
quite incredible. But I'd like to take it back even further than those 7 years. Can we start with diagnosis? Because you were quite young, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I tell everybody I was 8, but I was in the realm between 8 and 9. So yeah, I've had it nearly, was that 20 years now?
Wow.
20 odd years.
Do you remember anything?
I remember it as clear as day.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I remember everything about that day. I was at school. Obviously, in the weeks prior to it, I had all the symptoms. Obviously, going to the toilet a lot, drinking a lot, whatever. And then I had to do a pee sample. And I was at school, and I got called to the office. And like, Rory, you need to come to the office. I said, okay. So I went to the office, and then my mum was there, like, you need to come to the doctors, you need to come to the doctors. And I was like running about like a crazy person.
Wow.
And I got there, did my bloods and stuff, and they were reading it like 32, 33. And they were a bit like, why is he not lethargic? Why is he not in a bed somewhere? It just didn't really affect me that way. And then, push come to shove. But then a couple of hours I was at the hospital, and he says, right, this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And I can't remember it being like a bad experience. I was a bit like, what on earth is going on? Like, it was kind of mad. And then I sort of did my insulin from that point onwards. Wow. I didn't really let my mum or any of my family do my insulin.
You did it yourself from 8?
Yeah, so they did it at the hospital. They showed me how to do it. And I mean, you'd need to ask my mum for a reference, but I'm pretty sure I did it the next day.
Wow.
From that day on. Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. And I just aged up like that.
I mean,
I think that's what it gives you.
That's incredible. I feel like there are lots of similarities there that I can relate to.
Yeah, I was actually given a really interesting perspective on it a couple of weeks ago because I was chatting about this. And I can't remember how we got onto the subject, but this woman said, like, obviously, tell me about your diagnosis. So I spoke away about it. And I said, yeah, I took it on really quickly and I had to wise up on the spot. I felt like I was given no other opportunity. So she ended up saying, yeah, but in that instance, your childhood was robbed of you, right? And I went, what was that? That's pretty deep. Like, what's that about? So I went, go further into that. And she went, well, think about it. She was like, from that point onwards, instead of just going out to play with, make sure Rory's got this, make sure he's got, how's Rory's blood sugar? And your childhood's actively and subconsciously taken away from that person. So you instantly become this sort of invalid. And I thought, that's an amazing point of view. So from those first few years and every time after that, there was always this worry around the person that's diabetic, even though you don't feel it because you've aged up. But from a different, obviously, point of view, it is like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So I didn't feel it at the time. Yeah. Only recently did it get flagged to me that actually it was quite a big deal at that age. And she said that she's spoken to a lot of diabetics who've experienced that. And I was like, wow, well, I've learned something today, which is pretty amazing.
I mean, I often speak to classes of young children about diabetes. Yeah. And I did a wonderful class recently where I did it with a young 8-year-old who had, and we talked to his class. And the way that I like to describe it to children is very much what you were saying. So I say to them, okay, as a type 1, you might get up every day and on your way to school fight a tiger. Yeah. Yeah. But because you get up and do it every day and that's your norm, it's not a big deal to you. Yeah, true. But when you speak to another child who doesn't fight, and you say, I fight a tiger on the way to school every day, and they go, what?
Yeah, that's a bit mad,
You kind of realise, actually, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
But I think, I was diagnosed at 20, so...
Which I've always said this, but I'd rather be diagnosed... I say this now, again, my perspective might change, but I always said I'd rather be diagnosed younger because I've lived less of a life and it's easier to get used to because I only know so much. Whereas I take my hat off to people that have been diagnosed at 20, 25, 30, 40. There's a guy actually I'm working with now, Dominic Power, the legend that he is. He was diagnosed at, I think, in his 40s.
Wow.
You've got a whole life lived. All these habits, all these things part of your nature completely evaporated in the space of one sentence. You're now diabetic. And I was like, that to me is so much worse than being 8 going, I can't have chocolate spread on my toast anymore, is what they said to me at the time, which was pretty awful at the time, but I could deal with it.
Yeah.
But being 40 and going, all of these things I've trained my brain to do and love, I now have to actively change. I think that's a big thing to take on board for anybody.
I mean, we're all so polite in the type 1 community because I look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe you had to deal with that at such a young age. But, I see your point as well. It's that when you remember life before. Yeah,
it's like, I remember people used to go, do you want a cure? Do you want a cure? And I was going, no, it's a part of me. It's like a bit of a superpower. We can maybe get into that later and why I think that is. But I go, it's my life. It's within me now. So this is all I know.
Yeah.
So why would I change that?
Yeah.
I'm sure if a cure came out, I'd take it. But at the same time, superficially, I go, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. So
it's a really interesting point because I think it too. I often say diabetes is sort of one of the worst and one of the best things that's happened to me, because worst, obvious reasons. But the things that you can take for it, the community, the sort of the stoicism that you get from being type 1, all of those things, I don't know that I would necessarily be that or be the person that I am had I not.
I think so. I think it gives people more of a conscious approach to their life. And I think if you can see it from, I keep using the word, but if you can see it from a perspective of if your blood sugar is flying up, flying down, there's got to be a reason for it. Because most diabetics you speak to go, oh, my blood's different every day. It's different every day. And I've done the same thing. You know, I've eaten 4 peas and I've eaten a sausage. Why is my insulin not working, right? It worked fine yesterday. Because everything you're ingesting mentally, physically, from outside perspectives and things, is when you get stressed, your blood sugar flies up. All these different things. So if something's not resonating with you and you're in a bad place mentally because of X reason, the more stress you get, the higher blood sugar gets. And it makes you more conscious of your thought, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe medicinally that's wrong. I'm not sure. It would be cut. But that's the way I see it. I'm conscious now of my thoughts and what I'm doing to myself. I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? And it sort of rectifies itself along with the insulin, obviously. But it starts to take effect. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, it forces you to be more self-reflective.
100%.
And it forces you, you know, I always say to people, because, you know, I wear a sensor. I have it on my watch.
Yeah.
And when people talk about stress, I say, I have a visible graph of the effect that stress has on your body. I can tell you, stress is not.
Yeah. I was just on holiday. I was just on holiday a few days ago. This guy came up to me and started like speaking, and I mean, extremely broken English. He was Portuguese. And he was like, you know, excuse me, I'm not going to do an impression of him, right? He was like, excuse me. He's pointing to my arm. I had my sensor on. Excuse me. And he was sort of going, what is this? Is this for smoking? Is this for smoking? I was like, I was like, diabetic. really poorly trying to give his accent back. And he was like, oh, sorry. And then he sort of went, well done. And I was like, what? Well done for trying to quit smoking, if that's what you think it is. I don't know if it's a nicotine patch. I don't know. It was a strange guy. I loved it. It's a weird experience.
I love hearing people's ideas of what they think.
Oh yeah, it's a belter when a kid. I mean, God bless them when kids come up to you. What's that on your arm? And you're like, all right, what can I say this time? It's my off button.
It's
my
so
off
funny.
button. It's my naughty button.
I told my nephew that. I told him it was my power button, and he said, "Can I touch it?" And I went, "Okay." And he pressed it, and I went,
Yeah, it's fun the first 5 times, and then they keep doing it. You're like, shouldn't have said that one. Scratch that one off the list.
Oops.
Yeah,
bless him. Yeah, no, he was very sweet about it, my nephew, because he thought it was a power button. He played with it a bit, and he was like, "I want one," and I was like, "Oh, you don't really.
Oh yeah,
you don't want one.
Bit of a nightmare actually.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, what happens if you take it off?" And I said, "Well, I'd be a bit poorly, you know, I wear it because of this." And then he kind of looked at me and he went, "I don't want one anymore."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Good, you should not want one."
How did you find, by the way, just going back to your obviously initial question, being diagnosed at 20? Because again, in my opinion, that would be quite a difficult age, because that's when you're really starting to come into your own, really starting to find yourself as a woman. And you're like, oh my goodness.
I love how you've turned the tables and made this
you're
interested in me now.
Your story too, right? But it's like, how did that make, because again, it's fine for, obviously, my perspective is 8-year-old. Yours is 20. And like the midst of, like you say, your life coming together, changing, all these big things, the big wide world, it's yours now. And then to be told that is like, it's quite destructive, right?
It was hard, because I think at 20, you're just sort of working out who you are. You're just kind of finding yourself. Yeah. So I was like, I think I'm pretty sure who I am.
Yeah.
And then diabetes was like, nope, no, you're not.
I love that.
No, you're not. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I wanted to be a dancer at the time. Wow. But I was really struggling with seizures and hypos, bad control at first. And I just kind of gave up on the idea and I pivoted.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So it completely changed your path.
Yeah. But I think for good things, you know, I got access to them. I talk about this a lot sometimes, but being mixed race, growing up in the 90s, it was hard. I didn't feel like I had any community, or it wasn't part of anything.
Of course, right, yeah.
So I had loads of identity issues, didn't feel like I belonged to anything. So it's kind of sad, but when I became type 1, I became type 1 and suddenly these people were like, "You're one of us, we accept you." And I was like, oh my God, like I have people and they get me and they see me as one of them. And
that's amazing.
That was so, I'm grateful for the positive sides of it. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's made me a more understanding person, not just of type 1, but of all illnesses, invisible illnesses, whatever people are going through, struggles.
100%.
And I've ended up doing all this stuff. So, you can't.
Well, you can't knock that.
You can't complain, can you?
Brilliant.
But I just want to flip it again and touch on something that you said, because you mentioned before you see it as a sort of superpower, superhero thing, which is something else that I also say to people, because I often say to people, actually, you wouldn't know if you saw someone with type 1 going down the street, because we're doing all the same things able-bodied people are doing. But we're doing it with diabetes. We're doing it when we started the race 5 steps behind you.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not a vulnerability. That's showing just how strong.
Yeah, 100% strength. But I think, I see it as a superpower because you can have two mindsets, right? You can, I don't want to put it lightly, but obviously, victim mindset of, look, you get your hard days. I'm absolutely not battling that. You do get hard days, but when you turn into superpower and go, like you say, this is what I do. I control it doesn't control me.
Yeah.
Like, when you get that into your head, it seems like a simple statement, but it's so powerful because it immediately changes your through line for the week. And I think you see it as a superpower because every time it gets there, you bring it back to that, but this is what I do on a day to day. And I think it's really important to set that boundary for yourself. And I think that's why it's a superpower. If I can do this, I can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're constantly saving your life, be it one injection a day or one bolus type thing every single day. Is that you're constantly saving your own life. So yeah, of course it's like a superhero trait.
Yeah.
And as well, by doing that, and because diabetes seems quite prevalent now, and because there's a big community, when you speak about it, when you're walking down the street, and what I love now is like you've got to have done it. When you see somebody walking down the street, sensor, you're like, my man, like you're one of us. It's sick. And you go, because before it was blind. People, I think the statistics of people between the ages of 16 and I think 28 or 25 that hide it are like 85%, like going to the toilet to do their insulin, never doing their blood sugars in public. And that's a crazy statistic. But what that little device does on your arm that checks your sugars, or the little pod or whatever it is on your arm, you're going, it's there to be seen now. And it takes away that feeling of, I can't talk about it. It's there.
Yeah.
What's it changed? Absolutely nothing. What it's doing is giving an education to people who are going, what is that? And you can just tell them about it with no regrets. It's quite a good thing. I think that having it as an actual thing you can see is powerful. I think it's really good.
It was a big reason behind me creating Type 1 clothing, was that I felt that people shouldn't have to go in a bathroom, because actually the more you do that, the more that your brain starts to feel like you should hide away. And actually that pattern of thinking over time can be very self-destructive.
Yeah, this is one thing. When I found out that statistic about 85%, right, I was never in that percentage, I don't think, right? Not consciously, I was never in that percentage. But I wanted to know why people felt the need, and I'll never know. And hopefully when you're doing these podcasts, somebody will open up and say, this is why I did it. Because I think it's really interesting, that what is embarrassing to hide about it, or what are you scared about? And more often than not, I think it's certain remarks that people make. You don't look diabetic. That's a classic. It's an absolute classic. You don't look diabetic. So what am I supposed to look like? I don't know. I don't get it. But it's quite funny. Those throwaway remarks can be very cutting to people. But at the same time, I think if somebody opens the conversation with that, is, okay, I can teach them something. So teach them. One person that's learned from that is going to teach 4 or 5 more people that. And it's going to happen less and less frequently. Yeah. But because 85% of us hide it or whatever, this is an ongoing cycle. So I think changing that cycle and starting positively on that cycle is important. Like I say, if you start on a negative mindset, you're only ever going to move backwards. If you start with a positive front foot remark of going, actually, you're wrong, but this is what it is, said with love or whatever, they go, I didn't know that. You've changed their perception of maybe things that they've not thought about before, not just diabetics, but race, religion, etc. So they've learned something, I think. That's
absolutely. And, when it comes to diabetes, if somebody learns something, you never know. They might actually be able to step in and save somebody's life.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like, anytime I see somebody, like, falling over in the street, drunk or whatever on a Friday night, my initial response is, "Are you diabetic?" And they go, okay, cool. See you in a bit.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, it does cross the mind. I'm like, oh, they're taking a hypo. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
how many people have been in that position? It's just that thing. It's you look drunk or whatever. And I think that happens quite frequently too.
Yeah.
So just giving somebody the knowledge to even ask that could save somebody, which is quite cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
And that brings me kind of nicely onto the next topic, because obviously you're in Hollyoaks.
Yep.
And really unusually, you were able to sort of play out kind of your own diagnosis. How did that come about with the type 1 storyline?
It sort of came from nowhere. Now, it was funny because I'd always wanted to cover it. I think there's a whole realm of diabetes that's not spoken about and can be quite niche, but I think any of the conversations are key to the community because, again, it's education. Yeah. So I was always wanting to do something. I mean, I experienced some stuff when I was younger, like taking hypos all the time. And then about 2 years after my diagnosis, I started taking a lot more insulin than I should have been. And I was sort of hiding that part. And I didn't fully know why that was. I just said, it was making me better for longer. And I thought, that's quite intense. That's almost like an addiction. And my character in the show was addicted to heroin and, very sort of a big dark sort of drug scene.
Yeah.
And I thought, imagine we replaced that with something like insulin. Like he's diagnosed with diabetes. And because of the insulin, it's sort of bringing back that feeling of being in control of the life, like we spoke about.
Yes.
I think, could you have the same impact in terms of, just do a little bit more, give him that feeling of dissociation and whatever else. And it's something I want to cover. And it never came about. And then all of a sudden they just said, we're going to make your character diabetic. Wow. And I hope it's something we can kind of cover into the future, because I think it is an interesting topic to deal with. But it was just like, as soon as they offered me the story, I was like, it's important to tell. I'm going to tell it.
I mean, there's no better person to tell it.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was like art imitates life. But what was funny is I wanted them at the end of the ep, actually, to put in everybody that was on the crew that also had diabetes. Because there was about 2 people in the crew, guy was in the block, Dom, who I've spoken of. It's quite a few people. Yeah. And I was thinking, it's given these guys a voice too, and some of them have had it 30, 40 years, 10 years like Dom. And I was like, this is meant, like it's sort of spoken as if it's this, not rare illness, but you always know someone that's got it. And it's like, yeah, you always know someone that's got it. Yeah. It's really common, actually. I'm thinking, it wasn't until it was brought to my conscious attention how many people I work with actively have it. And I was like, wow, it's quite a few. And I wanted them to sort of be named to go in. Because I think it's quite important. People go, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life. You know, I get that quite a lot. Oh my gosh, you're doing this on TV. My daughter, she needs to know this. It'll change your life. And I'm like, yeah, you can do anything. It's not going to stop you. And then there was literally 4 people in the crew that have got it or whatever. And they're going, yeah, you could do props, you can do design. It doesn't stop you doing anything. No. But people have that thing in their head that it might do. But it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
No.
it actually doesn't. And that's the really powerful thing is that, you know, whenever you're diagnosed, no matter what age in life, your doctors are always going to sort of forewarn you of the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I got that a lot.
Let's be honest, right? Every single human being on the planet, if you tell them, like, these are all the wonderful things, but this is you're just going to focus on that, aren't you?
Of course, it's human psyche. Oh, God, it's like a fear thing, and I go, I could better focus on that just in case. Yeah. I was told all sorts when I was wee. I probably deserved it. I remember I got sat down. I'm not going to name names or any institutions, right? But I was sat down. They were there to look after me. That was the main thing. Yeah. And I was like, I must have been 14 at the time. And he was like, you know, how old are you? I was like, 14. That voice hadn't fully broken yet. He goes, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, footballer. And he went, well, that's not going to happen because you'll be dead. And it was really like, and he showed me my sugar. And he's like, your blood's like Coke. He's like, it's a syrup. And I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I can say oh my God, but I was like, bloody hell. Right? I was like, oh man, well, this guy's probably just sat me down for a chat. And it was almost like, yeah, this corporal punishment. I went, who's this helping? Like, you're at that age of going through where you think you know best. Classic teenager.
Oh, yeah.
Not bothered, mate. Not bothered is what it is, isn't it? And then you sort of go into this weird cycle of in denial. And then you got some guy saying you're going to end up 6 feet deep or whatever. And I was just like, I don't know. Not what I want to hear. Like, not what I want to hear. It was a really strange... It was his tactic to try out. And it must have worked because I'm still here. To be fair, Thomas, so thank you very much.
We're still here, and we're telling you you can do anything.
But that was at a time where there was no real social media.
Yeah.
I mean, there was probably Facebook, MSN and all these different things, a bit different. But I think that's what's so important now, is a lot of people are getting their knowledge and their education from an actual group of people who are living with it. And already in this last 10 years, I mean, you see the amount of research that's been done. 20 years ago, when I was diagnosed, it was almost like a new thing. You know, I mean, I'm sure you've had somebody on, like Pete, his name was, he had all his gear in, and see how far we've come in this, 40, 50 years is amazing. But still, there was this narrative that went with it, like, the diet, you can't have this, you can't have that.
Yeah.
And then again, that's what people's idea of diabetes is. You can't do that. You can't eat this. And you're like, well, no, that's what we're led to believe. But studies suggest actually you have control in everything in moderation.
And like you said, that's what's so amazing about social media. So we can see it.
Yeah,
we can
it's amazing.
see people who live with type 1 and are climbing mountains, running marathons.
I honestly didn't know. I didn't know about the community until probably 3-4 years ago, which is insane. And I think I'm not social media heavy per se. I was just having a laugh earlier, saying all I'm on it for is to laugh at memes. My thing. But I didn't realise, I think I posted something. Or I did something with somebody. I didn't realise the impact, the messages I got about it. People go, oh, this is amazing. I was like, oh, I feel like a bit of a messiah now. Start doing videos and not being an influencer. And
that's it, diabetes.
And it was amazing because people were actually going, thank you. I've never heard this perspective before. And I found that really cool. Because my approach to it is trying to be obviously we have a rough times, but I got a buzz off it, man. Yeah. And I say to people, if you're in the crew, only if you're in the crew can you say this, but it keeps me on my toes while I've still got them. And that might offend some people, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
My favorite diabetes meme is the one that says, things only a type 1 diabetic can say. I had a medical emergency, but I've had a cupcake, so I'm okay now.
Yeah, it's true. I use that excuse all the time. It's funny. If me and Nadine ever have like a bit of a to-do or whatever, she's always like, is your blood high? Yeah, you can't say anything to me. She always notices, because I'm pretty chill. But as soon as my blood goes that little bit high, I'm like...
I turn into a demon.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's really strange, the hormonal change. But yeah, it's just linked, isn't it?
Well, it is. And, when you have a busy life and, hectic schedule like you do, you're going to go high sometimes. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you cope with your filming schedules on Hollyoaks?
Yeah, I cope exactly, in my opinion, like everybody else. It's exactly the same, but I've got this other thing that I sort of need to focus on. Yeah. So you're doing a sort of 7:30 to 7:30 day. I think this is the beauty of diabetes. You don't have to be doing anything for it to change on a day-to-day. So if I start feeling like my blood's going low, whatever, I'll just rectify it. I'll jump off set and I'll get a Coke or whatever. And I find that question so funny because, like I say, it's all I know. So I don't know any different. And if my blood goes high, it goes low. I just rectify it quietly. I just do it. I think, again, some people operate in different fashions and people experience highs and lows differently. We're not all the same. I think that's the most key thing. You are your own body. Like, it's different from anybody else's. So it's how in which you deal with it. I just deal with it by going, I'll rectify it like this. And I'm hypo-aware, which I do not take for granted.
Yeah, I mean, that
I didn't even know again until not that long ago that hypos go unnoticed. And I was like, wow, that's my superpower. I think if you're hypo-aware, you can never take that for granted because to not be hypo-aware, my life would be completely different. I take quite a few hypos through the night and things like that. So to just wake up and rectify it dead easy is great. But I'm one of the directors I work with, his son, he's been diagnosed from a young age, and he constantly just checking his phone in the middle of the night to see if his son's okay because he's not hypo-aware. And I was like, wow. And to me, I think the real group of people that need to be listening to these things and need to be spoken in such high regard of, and not just the person that has diabetes, but the parents and the support network around them. Because I think, I always say, if one of my sons was to be diagnosed with it, I'd find that a lot more difficult than me being diagnosed with it at 8, because I'm not in control. They have to have control. And even though I've got my experience, I've got my view on it, I can say it's relaxed, it's positive, not everyone's the same. So I think that group of people particularly need a voice like this, and I'm sure they do. I'm absolutely sure they will have. But parents of children that are diabetics and spouses and things like that, all the complications, all the hardships that come with it, they need a safe space to go, man, it's hard.
Yeah. Because
they're seeing it from a detached view, and to feel everything that person's going through and to have empathy for it, I bet it's really hard, especially when they're aggy because their blood's high. Do you know what I mean? Oh, God, I'm raging, but I can't say anything. That's awful, isn't it? It's awful.
It's true. Yeah. You know, and rightly or wrongly, when it's us and it's our diabetes, I'm sure we've spoke about this before, you know, if we disengage, that's kind of on us.
Yeah, 100%.
But when you're a parent...
You can't. It's amazing, actually, because my goddaughter, Emery, she was diagnosed at 8 as well. So my best friend phoned me and he went, Rory, Emery's just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Can you give her any advice? And I went, yeah, don't do anything I do. So I had a bit of a laugh. But what was amazing, we were at a wedding not so long ago. Both parents were there. They're a beautiful couple. They're amazing. And they both on their phones, and they could see her levels and stuff from her sensor. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, to have that access now for parents is unbelievable. And I think even just coming along that far is just, for me, it's, how can it get any better, right? Because for me, my mum had to, like, run about with a blood kit like a crazy woman and trust that I would do it, which is a complete lack of control from her end. I mean, they say as a parent, that'd be really, really tedious. It's handing it over to a child. But with these guys now, they can just click on their phones. Yeah. I'm thinking that is an amazing piece of technology. Like,
and they'll never give it up. Doesn't matter how old Emery gets.
No, never.
I'm in my 30s and my dad follows my sensor
I wouldn't let anyone follow. I wouldn't let them waste their time.
I mean, it does get embarrassing because I have a lot of hypos in the night sometimes. And I did get a phone call from my dad once when I wasn't at home in my own bed.
What have you been up to?
No, Dad rings me because I'm having a hypo. And I'm like, I don't think I've even told this guy. And like, my dad's ringing me going, are you okay? Guys, why is your dad ringing you at 3?
Yeah, there's a guy, again, another guy I work with, shows you that his son, so he works in scheduling. Don't say that much. I mean, he's a lovely guy, right? His son, I've known for years he's diabetic, but he's about, I'm not gonna reveal his age just in case it gets him in trouble, right? But he's in his teens now. And it was like the school holidays or whatever, and his dad comes up, he's like, oh, you're going to be the only person that gets this. He's like, so he's got his girlfriend back with him, there's nobody in the house. And he showed me his graph. But I was like, fine. 2 minutes later, a few minutes later, boom. And I was like, oh, that's hilarious. And he's like, phoning, what are you doing in my house? I thought it was class.
That is horrendous. You just can't get away with anything.
Nothing. So I just put a bottle of Lucozade by the bed, mate. It'll be fine. Yeah. Cracking.
Oh gosh. But I mean, it's true though. You know, you do have some embarrassing moments with type 1 and.
Yeah.
You know?
I know what you're going to ask me next.
I'm like, go and share one of your...
Yeah, I mean, if you want like funny like sex stories, all mine are funny, but they're just not related to diabetes.
We'll that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
But, you know, seriously, in all serious though, you know, it's so amazing that you've come here and talked to us today because I know a lot of people will know you as Joel from Hollyoaks.
Yeah.
And they won't necessarily know that you're doing these incredible things and you're achieving and you're living, like, you've got a beautiful wife, you've got 2 amazing sons.
Oh, yeah, I've made it. Like, my own opinion, again, just seeing, going back to the mind of an 8-year-old or whatever, I have no idea what it was going to be. And then getting on a show, having a bit of a platform like that, and then to be able to actually show it on screen. And to see the community of people that helps is like, that's why you do the job. Yeah. So, and I've got everything that comes with it. Nadine's amazing with it. The boys, like, Reggie breaks my heart because he's 4 and he's so emotionally tapped in. He's beautiful. And he's like, Daddy, is that for your sugars? And he can't pass my insulin. And if sometimes I lie to him, because if there's like a cake or something on the side, he's, oh, Dad, can I get a bit of cake? And I'm like, is that for your blood sugars? I'm like, yes. So, yeah, some of the little white lies to you now.
That's
but he
parenting
knows,
101.
He knows, and I'm thinking, mate, you're 4. And I think what's going to be a real interesting viewpoint for me is when he gets to 8. And Nadine said it the other day, when Reggie gets to the age you were diagnosed at, I think he's going to hit you with something. And I went, yeah, I'm going to see how young I actually was. Because, like I say, when I think back to that moment, I've got this mindset. And I go, I've always been this age. Even when I was diagnosed, I've always had a wisdom about me. But what I'm actually going to see is a little boy. And I'm going to go, oh my gosh, that's a big change. Yeah. It's probably quite a lot. Yeah. So that'll be interesting when he gets to that age. I think.
It's going to hit you.
Yeah, I think it will. It'll be interesting to see how we deal with it.
You know, I was stunned when you said you straight away went home and started doing your own
Yeah, and that's honestly, I'm thinking, is that a bit weird? Do you know what I mean? You're going.
I mean, you're definitely the first person I've heard say.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, please get him on me like video message in. I'm adamant. I just went okay, and it was a bit psychotic. I'm like, needles, great, I can do that. And I did it day on day, and it was, my life had changed, and that was that. But it was cool, man. It was cool.
I mean, you just get on with it, don't you?
100%.
It's always funny when somebody comes up to you and goes, "Oh, I could never do that," and I'm like, "Well,
that is our belter, isn't it?
If the alternative is dying."
Oh my God, how do you do that? Because I'll die, mate.
Oh, but seriously though, thank you, Rory, for coming on the show today. I know loads of people are going to be really inspired to hear from you. So
I hope so. I mean, I feel like I've just spoken nonsense for like 40 minutes.
That's the truth of it, isn't it? Really, it's life. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, I buzz off it personally. It's cool. I think, like you say, more people to do this, more people to speak about it, widens the community, lets other people know, and that's really important. So. That's why we're doing it, innit?
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
But I'm not going to let you go just yet.
Okay.
We're going to have a quick break, and then I'm going to bring you back for the fun part.
Oh, okay.
But please stick with us, guys, because we will be back with Rory after a short message from our sponsors. Now, as many of you may know, I also live with type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed in 2007, age 20. For years after my diagnosis, I lived on multiple daily injections, and not always with the greatest success. I just didn't think there was a better way for me. Then in 2018, I discovered Omnipod, and what blew me away is the fact that it's tubeless. I'd always thought of pumps as having tubes, and that's really what put me off. It just all seemed like a bit too much to have something tubed attached to my body. Being on the Omnipod system has changed my life in so many ways. It's not just improved my diabetes management, but it's the headspace and the freedom that it's given me whilst allowing me to do that. Now you may think, this all sounds amazing, but what is it like in real life? What does it feel like to wear? How big is it? Will it stay on my body? Well, the good news is that Omnipod offer a free demo kit with a needle-free pod that allows you to try it at home. It doesn't deliver any insulin, but it allows you to try it out for size and see what it's like to wear an Omnipod in real life. If you'd like to order a demo kit, you can head to omnipod.com/typecast and get started today. Now, back to the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of the Typecast with Rory. Thank you, Rory, for not running away.
No, it's okay. I'm nervous for this bit, though. I mean, I couldn't run away if I tried. Look at the size of this mic.
I know, that's right. We've got you fully backed into the corner.
There's a dog guarding the door as well.
Yeah.
It's huge.
German Shepherd.
Yeah.
As our viewers may know already, this is the more light-hearted part of the show.
Okay.
So,
I can relax.
Listen, we've talked about some of the serious stuff. We've talked about, the inspiration. But it's real life.
Mm-hmm.
And come on, it goes wrong sometimes, doesn't it?
No. I'm joking.
Have you got any funny diabetes stories you'd like to share with the group?
Do you know what, right? I've probably got loads. I've probably got absolutely loads. But off the top of my head, I can't really think. There's one thing. I know it's going to be a really good night, right? If I hear my fiancé taking a retainer out, and then going, "We got dextrose by the bed." And I go,
She's going to love you for this story.
it's true. I'm like, I'm in here. It's that retainer popping out, cracks me up. I'm in.
You're like, yes, the retainer's coming out.
Honestly, that's about it. And I never tell her if I'm taking a hypo, although she can probably tell. It's usually my excuse if I put in a poor performance. I'm like, I'm sorry, just wasn't a quick.
Sorry, yeah,
today. Was being a bit selfish there. I just had to make it sure it was over and done with. Taking a hypo. So I get my graph up just to prove it. It's a screenshot from like 2 weeks ago.
I love that. That's brilliant. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, come on, it's what happens. You ever not? Well, you don't wear a pump, but you do wear a sensor, don't you? You ever knocked your sensor off?
All the time. And it's like, I don't know how far round I can put it on my flipping arm without knocking it into a door.
I know.
And I'm like, something's got to change. And I was like, I know I've started training that. But I'm not that big. I'm like, from my ego, I'm like, it must be huge. I'm banging off doorways and that. But honestly, it's every time. And it's always when I'm in a rush. Oh. It's always when my blood's high and I'm fuming. And I go like, and you just hear it going, and you go, are you actually having a laugh? And you got to wait like 4 or 5 days before the next one comes in. And you go back to like the caveman era where you've got to actually do your blood. And you're like, no.
I have not used my blood testing meter for so long that I actually have to put the batteries back in if I want to. Yeah, I want to use it. I have to get the batteries back out.
To be fair, I've got this wee kit, right? And it's like, it's all contained in one. So honestly, I went through nearly my whole adult life of going, I didn't do my blood sugar right. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I just didn't do it. I feel like I didn't need to. It wasn't I was too embarrassed or whatever. I was just going, I don't need to. I know my own body. I've had this for years. And I suppose it was kind of in denial. That was my in denial stage. Yeah. Albeit I spun it as like, I don't need to do it. It's cool, it's cool. I've got it under control. So I used to hate the little strips and the wee bits. And my mum used to, there's blood strips everywhere. She'd get really vexed at me. So I just I stopped doing it through the whole time I was at uni. I never really did my blood.
Wow.
And then I came across, like when I come down south, the GP I went to, they gave me this banging little piece of kit, and it was this black little thing. It was a cassette.
Oh, the cassette one. Yes.
Right, needle attached, everything. It was, class. And honestly, I still use it now.
Really?
I still use it now because I think it's the most. It's that for me was the technology that changed my life.
Wow.
Because I had Nadine sort of going, so we got together when I was, what was that, 25, 26, 25? I can't remember. Yeah. We've been together 7 years now, right? So at that age, 25, I'd gone my whole life, I'm not bothered. She was like, mate, like, you need to start looking after yourself properly.
Good for her.
Yeah, mate, she's an angel, right? She's an angel. It's probably because I said I wasn't performing. that would help me out. Right? I was like, no, my game's up.
I'm going to sort this out.
Yeah, it's true. And I got given this kit, and I was like, this is absolutely class. Without her giving me that to say, sort it out, and it's really important, you know, if we're going to have a life together, long run and all the rest, I don't want you like popping your clogs. And yeah, that changed my life. And then I got the sensor, which again was even better. And I'm a creature of habit. I don't really like change. I mean, I'm still on my injections. I've still not made the jump yet. But the sensor was an amazing gateway into that. And yeah, I think moving forwards, without that little cassette, I probably wouldn't even have this.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. But you raise a very valid point there, which is that change is difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, no matter what
when you think you know better.
When it's a routine that you're in, a medical routine, it can be hard, even if you know that the change
will benefit
you.
100%. It's laziness entirely. It's like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I work with quite a few diabetics, and it's the same thing. Some of them are on pumps, some of them just got the sensors in. The sensors are incredible. But the pumps, I don't know that many people on them. And in fact, there's another guy who's just started. He's amazing. Johnny, I think he was in EastEnders for a bit, and he's joined us now.
Johnny Laby.
Beautiful, beautiful guy.
Yeah, so I've spoken.
Yeah. He's
I was on his podcast years ago.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, he actually phoned me the other day because he's on a pump, and he was, oh, mate, I don't know if his pump screwed up or he'd run out or something. He was like, have you got any? And it's funny because he's a drug dealer on the show. He's like, you got any needles on you? I was like, oh no, it's not method, are you? And I had to give him an insulin pen and that. Yeah, that was cool. It was nice though, because in any other place he might not have known.
Yeah.
So I stopped him from having to go home and all that nonsense. I just gave him an insulin pen. It was class. He's class. He's got his wee pump and everything. And I look at him and I'm like, yeah, he's got it under control, man. So it gives me that incentive to maybe change. But like I say, creature habit, bit lazy, and maybe one day I'll change. And so many people say it has changed their lives, actively changed their lives for the better. Yeah. So I'll probably do it soon.
Good. Oh, well, I'm excited. You'll have to tell me when you try
I'll come back on.
Try out.
Do it. No, honestly, the kit they've got now, Omnipod, obviously, without the wires, I think is amazing. Got a wee trial pod from them, and I was shocked at how easy it was to install and everything. I was like, this is a piece of kit. And obviously it's only getting better. Yeah. It's only getting better. Some amazing news come out about these pumps now, so it's great. It's great.
It's funny you talk about, knocking a sensor off, because I was actually filming another one of these podcasts the other week, and coming out of the studio down the stairs, big bag, and I knocked my pump off my leg. Yeah. But it is so easy to set up and so easy to change. I was literally there at the bottom of a stairwell in a studio just doing a pump change quickly.
Brilliant.
Jump on the train.
It's a little costume change. It's funny. Yeah.
But it's also funny what you mentioned about Johnny there with the not having the needles and being able to come to you.
I thought that was cool. It's not going to be taken lightly. I was like, I'm so glad he was comfortable enough to ask, because not many people would do that either. No. But they're a bit of a unit in that, and I don't know him that well. But he was just like, mate, have you got anything? It's the way he approached me. It couldn't have been any more CD. And I was like, oh, got any needle? I was like, what are you asking here?
Oh, God, hi, Johnny.
It was funny, man. He's a really, really good guy. So
he is.
Help him.
No, Johnny's lovely.
But now he owes me, so I'll be coming.
That's it.
If I don't get any returns, I'll be coming to steal his pump next time.
It happened to me once years ago. I was actually going to speak at a diabetes fundraising ball in Leeds, and I was so nervous, and it was one of my first big public speaking events, and I went to get on the train, and I was practically at Leeds from Manchester, and I realised I'd left all my pens and needles at home. Oh, yeah. But it was a diabetes conference. So I get there, and I literally see a group of people like, I've left all my insulin. And everyone just whips their pen out, like, do you want some of mine?
Yeah, I did it in London, actually. I had an audition for, it was like a panto, and it was way back when. It was awful, right? I was so poor, right? I had no money. And I was like, right, I've got this big audition. And it was for a show that I'd always wanted to be in, right? It was the Edinburgh King's Theatre. And I used to go there every year for the panto with my gran. And I thought, man, if I get this job, right, so I'm there, I'm on the train down, I'm shaking like a leaf. I get terribly nervous. Get down there, I turn up. And you know, like the Spotlight, is it Spotlight Dance Studios?
Pineapple Dance Studios,
I wonder if I'm going to see that Louis guy. It's proper nervous. And I walk in, I'm like, say it in my chest, I'm like, Rory Douglas Speed got an audition for the panel. That and the big man. And they're like, oh yeah, it's tomorrow. I went, oh what? And because I was scared, I got like a day saver ticket. I had to go there and back. I didn't have my insulin. So I didn't have any Zolactin. I was like, right, what am I going to do? Am I going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime, or am I going to risk death and do the audition?
You did the audition, right?
Which one do you think I picked?
You did.
So I was like, it's sound. It's absolutely sound. And bear in mind, I didn't have a blood kit because I was that age. I didn't do my blood, right? Yeah. But I knew when I was ill.
Of course.
That's a good marker. And basically, I phoned my pal and I was like, listen, I need to stay over tonight. Is that okay? And he went, yeah, cool. So I just drank water the whole entire time. So I must have looked like a bag of bones when I turned up for that audition. But I got the job.
Hey,
I got the job. So yeah, all them ketones and that was worth it. Yeah, it was sound. I was quite chuffing myself there. I was like, yes.
There you go. Also, not medical advice or any advice of any kind, but
not from me anyway. Sorry.
Apparently, high blood sugars are good for auditions.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely not. I was nervous, right? And because I was nervous, it probably got worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was all over the shop, but yeah, I was skinting. Skinting the pancreas.
Love those days.
Oh.
Yeah, love those days. Right, I'm gonna take us on to our next section, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
You will find some pieces of card in front of you.
I just see one that says pump on it, and I'm wondering what this game is.
So each card is printed double-sided. You'll find an option on each side. I'm going to ask you the question. I would like you to hold your answer up to the camera, please, and also say your answer for our audio-only people. Okay, you ready? We're going to start off easy.
Right.
Pump or multiple daily injections?
I
mean, you can only really...
Multiple, yeah, I'd be lying if I said that one. So, multiple daily injections, please. Thank you.
Okay, CGM or finger pricks?
Ooh, it's got to be CGM, innit? Like, move with the times, piece of kit, brilliant.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay, fun one. Phone or text? Are you a caller or a texter?
I'm a voice noter.
Okay.
Right. I'm terrible at replying to anything, but I'm definitely a voice note. Phone, I will have a heart attack if you call me. So don't call me. Text, don't text, 'cause you'll never hear from me. Just voice note me. Can I say that? Can I do that?
My 8-year-old niece says to me, she's like, you never reply to your messages. I went, don't worry, I do it to everyone, not just you.
Give me a break. I'm trying to keep myself alive every day.
I'm going to use that one next time. Okay, Insta or TikTok?
Never really used TikTok. Can you just come off Instagram? But I will go for Instagram because I'm here for the memes. Always
We're here for the
memes.
diabetes memes.
Always. Anything that's funny, man. Get it.
Okay, high or low? If you had to choose.
What?
If you had to.
What a grim question. Normal, please. High or low? Low. I'll go low because high, I can't be bothered with it. It's a nightmare. But low, when you get them, like, hypo munchies.
It's an excuse to have juice.
Toxic.
Excuse for juice.
I'll smash all that. It's not going to affect me.
Which brings me on to the next one. Juice or sweets?
I feel like I'm getting intricate with these. I'm like, what kind of sweets? It depends how thirsty
you
I am.
You can specify.
Right. Sweets, but like chocolate and biscuits and that. Like,
all the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not big into like chewy sweets. So.
No.
But yeah, they're the best. Like jelly babies for a hypo, 100%. Yeah.
I like juice for a hypo.
Yeah, I feel like I drank myself sick of orange juice. And I'm like, it depends, but yeah. I'll go sweets for jelly babies.
Okay, Crocs or not?
Crocs or not?
Yeah. Are Crocs hot or are they not?
They weren't, right? They weren't.
You've been
Mate,
converted.
Listen, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm going to say is, right, we as a people are silly, right? Crocs, when they first came out, you were nothing but a laughing stock, right? But now you got wee pins and that, and all the big guys are wearing them. Everyone's cutting about in Crocs as if it's normal, and it's not.
I like the way you let them on.
because my pal Jamie, right, bless him, Jamie Lomas, I'm going to double name him here. He come in, right? So on like the Monday, he was telling me about he was going to get these Crocs, right? And he was almost like forewarning me. And then he came in wearing them, right? These big, ludicrous, really expensive Crocs, right? They were like alligators. And then he goes, they're so comfy. He was almost giving himself an excuse because he knew they were ridiculous. And he didn't want me to laugh at them.
But he also told you the day before, which gave you ample time to sort of prep your...
Yeah, or prep himself. I don't know what it was. He was almost like self-protection. But I'm neither here nor there with them. I think some people look good in them. I look
and they're not
horrific. I'm too short to wear Crocs for a start. They make me look kind of like... I don't know if I can say... But I look silly in them. But some people look good. I do not. So I'll go not for me, personally.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. Final one then. HbA1c or time in range?
Can you please explain the difference, Your Honour? So HbA1c.
That's your...
Like your overall 8 weeks or 6 week thing.
Your 3-monthly blood test exam that tells you your average blood sugar.
I sound like the fakest diabetic in the world, don't I? I'm like, what's that? HbA1, which is embarrassing. I've been saying HbA1c for like my whole life. Time and range. I'll probably go with this because it's important long term.
Yes.
Right? But my time and range is all over the gaff. But when I look at my, I go, but when I look at my HbA1c, I'm like, it's fine, isn't it? It's just
so
like
you're just choosing HbA1c because it's better?
Yeah, it's HbA1c because it gives me clarity. And it's like that thing. It's like you've researched for months and you get to your appointment and they go, do you want to hear your HbA1c? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't know. And then they give you a good number and you go, oh, it was worth it.
Time
and range is too scatty for me. It becomes too obsessive. And I'm never in it.
No, that is a valid point.
I think it can become that, can't it? And you're like, oh my god, and then Rage Wallace.
I mean, I always say there's probably pros and cons to both. You may know I like to finish these shows on a positive note.
Oh.
See what I did there?
Okay.
So
Here's
what
a cue.
what is your best advice or your favourite motivational quote that you would like to share with everyone?
I'm a pretty bland person in terms of like read knowledge. You could probably tell if you've like made it through this podcast, to be fair. But somebody said to me this amazing quote that I'm going to forget when I'm trying to spiel it off, and it's if let me make it up. Wait a minute. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? That's it.
I love that.
Right? And I think that is bang on, and especially I suppose like a subject like this, like if you're not going to make the positive changes in your life to help yourself and positive, proactive, who's going to do it for you? When are they going to do it? You're in control. You do it. You're the man.
Absolutely. And also, don't do what Rory does.
Yeah, if not you, then it's me. And no one wants that. Yeah, sure.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Rory. I know everybody's going to have a lot of laughs watching this show.
I don't know. I'll be cancelled or something.
So if people do want to follow you online, where can they find you?
It's Rory Douglas Speed, I think.
You'll find him.
I'm not very good at selling myself. I think it's at Rory Douglas Speed on Instagram, and there's nothing on it. Really.
When we find out what the handle actually is, we'll put
sorry.
in the description. No, but seriously though, Rory, thank you so much. And I'm sure you will get a lot more T1D followers coming looking for you now.
I'll certainly not get any more podcasts. Yeah, man.
Oh, brilliant. No, thank you. And of course, if you would like to appear on an episode of the TypeCast, you can email us at typecast@insulet.com with your name, age, location, and what you'd like to chat about. Or if you would just like to share a funny story, you can get us on our socials. And you never know, we might read one or two out. Until next time, guys, keep up the good work because you're smashing it.